Here's my second attempt at just like chatting into the camera and doing a rough sketch for the 6 training videos for a steward training for the Zen Peacemaker Circles. So the idea is that if you watch all 6 of these videos, then you'll have received the core knowledge and the core tools to go away and set up a Zen Peacemaker Circle, or just find the tools useful. So this second video. So this video is on the 3 tenets of the Zen Peacemakers. And the 3 tenets were Bernie Glassman's way of encapsulating the heart of what Zen practice and Zen meditation is all about. The first is not knowing, the second is bearing witness, and the third is loving action or taking action. Now these are apparently an attempt to rephrase something called the 3 pure precepts, which are talked about a lot in Zen, which is cease to do evil, learn to do good, and purify the mind, or cease to do evil, cultivate the good, and purify the heart. Of which it was once said that a child of 7 could understand it, but a man of 70 would find it hard to actually put them into practice. So these 3 precepts, we have the first one is not knowing, and this links into so many of the great religious traditions. In Buddhism, obviously, it connects to something like emptiness, shunyata. But it goes right to the heart of the way we grasp onto life. We hold life through the thoughts in our head, through the way we develop kind of habitual feelings about things, and even deeper. There's something about who we are, and even who I am, just in this moment, in this situation, is a kind of holding, a kind of closing down of all the infinite possibilities that might be possible. So a great Zen master called Uchiyama Roshi spoke of opening the hand of thought. And this is what Bern is getting at with the idea of not knowing. So we tend to think we know. I know who I am. I know who my friends are. I know what my job is. I know what I'm studying. I know what life's all about. I know what I believe. I know what my religion teaches me. There are so many things that we start to give a shape to our life that makes my life and my experience different to your life and your experience. And on one level, that's perfectly okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the fact that, I know that I like the taste of, say, coffee but not tea, or that I like to drink a certain kind of beer but not a certain kind of whiskey or something. Now that's not what we're talking about. It's a step behind that, which is, why do you need to be defined in this kind of way at all? What happens if you let go of the sense of defining yourself or what you think you know, and are open to many possibilities? Towards the end of his life, Bernie tended to speak about, in his book, The Dude and the Zen Master with Jeff Bridges, he spoke about, that's just your opinion, man, and it's like, anything you think, even if it's real, even if it's worth devoting your life towards, it is still just your opinion. It's just one way of seeing things. And if you're trapped by that one way of seeing things, so instead of it being a tool or a way of engaging, it becomes a limitation or a fixedness, then we're stuck. So how do we get ourselves unstuck? So this first tenet of the Zen Peacemakers, not knowing, is all about getting yourself unstuck. And then the question is, how do you do that? And of course, I mean, in millions of ways. The wonderful thing about Bernie Glassman's teaching is that it's not just focused on one particular set of classical tools or one set of new tools that he's developed, but we're constantly challenged to kind of create new tools. We call them upayas in Mahayana Buddhism, like skillful means, and we really do have the capacity and the need, every one of us, to come up with new upayas in our life, to ask, what today, in this situation, in this opportunity, what's going on that could be an upaya for not knowing, so I can be coming from a place of not being fixed and not closing things down. And we can all do that. there's a tendency in Buddhism to think that only kind of like high up Zen masters or high up Tibetan lamas can kind of develop new things. And while it's true that I'm sure, like great Zen masters come up with particularly great upayas, in a Mahayana way of thinking, all of us, every one of us, in each moment needs to come up with a new upaya, can come up with a new skill for reaching out to the world, because only I know what's blocking myself, what's separating myself from the aliveness of what's other than me, in the positive sense of the word other, that which isn't limited by my thinking and my way of knowing things, but to open out. And I need to find upayas throughout my life, skillful means, tools for letting go of these holdings, and allowing life to contact me, and for me to contact life, like two hands touching. So not knowing. Now, on the second of the Zen Peacemaker principles, the Three Tenets, is bearing witness, and I love this one. This is particularly this really is part of the genius of Bernie Glassman to express it in this kind of way. And the phrase bearing witness actually comes from the Quakers. It's used quite a lot in the history of Quakerism, relating to the idea of kind of like not closing our eyes to suffering, but really taking on ourselves the cause of the sufferings of others. And from Bernie's point of view, from the Zen Peacemakers, what we're trying to do is to realize that my heart can be touched or can open to the universe, to the experience of others, I mean, while you're watching this, you have certain feelings going through your heart, through your mind, through your body. You live in a life situation, and we're not entirely separate. And if I can open my heart and my experience, then whatever's in your life experience can touch me. I can never fully know it. I can never fully kind of step out of my eyes and see through your eyes, because there's always difference. There's always uniqueness in the world, and Zen doesn't deny that uniqueness. Nothing is kind of like smushed together into one big smushiness. Everything retains its distinctness and uniqueness, and yet we can all open out to each other more. And I can allow my heart to be touched by your suffering, and I can allow my heart to be touched by your happiness. So we interpenetrate each other. We move and we listen and we feel within each other's worlds and lives. And so bearing witness is this idea of how do we find upayas, skillful means, tools, approaches, and even more generally the spirit of allowing my life to be touched by your life, and by all lives, by the life of every dog, every child, every tree, maybe. I mean, maybe we don't close this down to like what we normally think of as consciousness, but we can experience the kind of like the living aliveness, the sensuous consciousness of the entire universe. How do we do that? How can we open? How can we allow our being to be touched by, and to move and flow and change and breathe the experience of all the life around us? And this is the second of the Zen Peacemaker tenets, bearing witness. And the third comes out of these two. And the third is sometimes expressed as loving action, and sometimes just expressed as taking action. So we don't like worry too much about the terminology we're using. But the point is to do something. There's a saying of the Prophet Muhammad. He says, if you see something wrong in the world, change it with your hand. Take actual action. And if it's not possible to change it physically right now, speak out. Change it with your tongue. And if even that's not possible, then we can wish in our heart, we can pray for it to change. But he said this is the weakest of faith. If we really respond to suffering, we want to change it. We want to go there and do something. So right throughout Bernie Glassman's life, his teaching was this emphasis on really doing something, to not just think about the Dharma, not just sit in the meditation hall and do Zen practice or whatever, but to get out there in the marketplace, and not to see it sequentially. So often in Zen, you have an idea, you learn Zen, you spend years meditating and practicing, and then finally at the end of all this, then you maybe return to the marketplace. But that's not really a very in a way, it's not a very Zen way of thinking about it, in that reality is present here and now. There is no other place to get to. We're here, whatever enlightenment is, whatever these words, whatever experience or reality they're pointing towards, they're not pointing towards something that's not accessible right now. So as I'm speaking and as you're listening, that all of this is possible, all of this is here. And so we have to take care of our world and our life right now. We can't wait for some future event. That doesn't mean there might not be times when we spend like a year or 5 years, like focusing on our own spiritual development, perhaps, because that would be taking action. But ultimately, we see, here's our life, here's the situation, that the mandala, the sacred pattern that surrounds us, and we're sensitive to that through bearing witness, and alive to its aliveness through not knowing, and naturally we respond, and we respond through doing something, and in a way we have to trust ourselves to do the right things, because there's a kind of contemporary koan, when you come to a fork in a road, take it. It's like you're driving along, do I go this way or that way? And because enlightenment is always here, because the situation is always opening up new from a Zen perspective, whichever way you take, that's now here. So act, and then act again, and then act again. And this has led Bernie to develop through his lifetime social businesses. The Greystone Bakery, which opened up into the Greystone Foundation of like daycare centres and an AIDS hospice and temporary and then permanent accommodation for homeless people, and then the Zen Peacemaker Order, and bringing hundreds of people every year together to retreat on in Auschwitz-Birkenau to bear witness both to the past and also to each other in this moment, this time. And people engaged with the Zen Peacemakers have developed so many social action projects and schools and interfaith projects and centres, and only you can do what's possible in your life. We have an image in Buddhism of the goddess Kuan Yin, or in Indian Buddhism, Avalokitesvara, the one who responds to the cries of the world. And the story is that Avalokitesvara, who in the Indian stories is male, made a vow to never stop being compassionate, never stop helping people until he'd solved all the problems, he'd taken away all the suffering of the world. And so he worked, and in another lifetime he worked, and another lifetime he worked. And then finally, after I don't know, thousands of lifetimes of trying and the suffering getting no better, because his heart was open, because he was bearing witness, he chatted. It was too much. Like thousands of pieces of Avalokitesvara, thousands of pieces of the goddess Kuan Yin, like shattered to the ends of the universe. And then the Buddha of love, Amitabha, was said to come and piece together all the pieces that had shattered from Kuan Yin and make her whole again. But now she had 1,000 arms, and each arm holds a different tool, so she can help in 1,000 directions at once. And she has 11 heads, each facing in a different direction, so she can see at one time everything that needs to happen. And this is a very deep metaphor. It goes very, very deep, actually, for who and what we are as practitioners in Buddhism and members of the wider community of different spiritualities and faiths, and the whole human family. So individually, there's only so much I can do, but through each other, we can do so much. So you can do what you can do. I can do what I can do. My family can do what they can do. And then together we become an embodiment of Avalokitesvara, of Kuan Yin. There's an image of this, which Bernie talks about in his book, Bearing Witness, which is from the Jewish tradition. And in the Jewish tradition of Isaac Luria, the great Kabbalist, he said that at the start of the universe, God, whatever this means, God created like pure shapes, pure vessels of creation, pure forms, which contained his light. But even these pure, perfect forms couldn't really contain the light, so they broke. And this, for Isaac Luria, was an explanation of why this world, on the one hand, is so much filled with beauty, but on the other hand, has so much suffering, because something broke right back at this first moment of creation, and the world we experience all around us is kind of like fragments of these broken vessels. And on one side of the brokenness is just kind of like the broken glass, and on the other side is light. And what we can do, said Isaac Luria, is each of us individually has a possibility in our life through prayer and service to bring together certain fragments of those broken holes to make them whole again. And then by coming together with you, the fragments that we brought together come together with each other too. So bit by bit we can regather the sparks, regather what was broken and make it whole again too. And in Jewish it's called tikkun olam, repairing the world. And I think in the Zen Peacemakers, we do that. Tikkun Olam is a key spirit of what we do, and it's a nice way of thinking about Bernie's idea of taking action. So there we are. That's a short video on the three tenets of a Zen Peacemakers: not knowing, bearing witness, and loving action. And then over the next few training videos, we'll be looking at tools that have become kind of like the structure underlying the Zen Peacemaker Circles, which is one part of Bernie's experiment. But when we go through them and I teach you how you can use them to set up your own circle, it's worth remembering that behind them are these three principles, and the principles are what matter, not the tools. So if you need to change the tools or adapt them, that's perfectly okay. But even more importantly, all of the tools, all of the teachings, all of the words, everything I'm saying right now are just to help you kind of feel into where these three things are coming from, where not knowing, bearing witness, and loving action are coming from, so that day by day and situation by situation, you can discover upayas in your life to make your life really a living expression of the supreme meal which feeds all of the hungry spirits. I'll finish this video by singing an invocation from the start of Bernie's favorite ceremony, the Gate of Sweet Nectar, for feeding the hungry spirits. Now, this tune was written by Krishna Das, the Hindu devotional singer, and we use it in the Zen Peacemakers. It's kind of almost like they capture the spirit of the whole Zen Peacemakers. So I'll sing this 3 times so that you can pick it up, and then we'll finish for now. Calling out to hungry hearts everywhere through endless time, you who wander, you who thirst, I offer you this heart of mine. Calling out to hungry spirits everywhere through endless time, calling out to hungry hearts, all the lost and the left behind. Gather round and share this meal, your joy and your sorrow, I make it mine. Calling out to hungry hearts, everywhere through endless time, you who wander, you who thirst, I offer you this heart of mine. Calling out to hungry spirits, everywhere through endless time, calling out to hungry hearts, all the lost and the left behind. Gather round and share this meal, Your joy and your sorrow, I make it mine. Calling out to hungry hearts, everywhere through endless time. You who wander, you who thirst, I offer you this heart of mine. Calling out to hungry spirits, everywhere through endless time. Calling out to hungry hearts, all the lost and the left behind. Gather round and share this meal. Your joy and your sorrow, I make it mine.